Stacey Martin, and today we're here to talk about how ethical considerations affect healthcare professionals. So today we're going to discuss what is the definition of the word ethics, philosophical theories of ethics and how they relate to healthcare, and what are the four main core principles that define healthcare. So firstly, what is the definition of healthcare? According to the Collins Dictionary, ethics is the philosophical study of the moral value of human conduct and of the rules and principles that ought to govern it, moral philosophy. Ethics are about what is good for society and the individuals within it, affecting the way in which people behave and protecting them from wrongdoing. They are classed as moral philosophy, which is from the Greek word ethos, which means habit, character or disposition. Throughout society, they are used to assist with making decisions in reference to certain issues or dilemmas, such as what our rights and responsibilities are, what is deemed right or wrong, good or bad. They are a set of moral values helping provide a pathway when important decisions are to be made and our emotions may be involved. As humans have a tendency to behave in certain ways. Emotions and gut feelings take over common sense and what heads are telling them to do. So having a set of moral values and principles gives guidance when decisions may be hard. So next section is philosophical theories of ethics and how they relate to healthcare. The Oxford English Dictionary 2018 defines philosophy as a theory of attitude that acts as a guiding principle for behaviour. It is a way of studying and addressing problems, which may be about mind or reason, values or existence. It relies on more rational arguments and its approach is systematic. Beauchamp and Childress 2018 identified 4 principles which were essential to health professionals when needing to make moral decisions. They were based on the theories of Immanuel Kant, who was a deontology follower. Deontology. The word deontology comes from a Greek word deon, which means duty, and legos, meaning science or study of. Deontology is a theory where duty-based ethics use a moral code to base whether an action is right or wrong. Actions such as telling lies, keeping promises, stealing, privacy, harming or killing people. It focuses not only on the consequences but more on the way things are done. Immanuel Kant believed it possible that a moral system could be developed if reasoning was used. He then assumed this would help people deal with moral dilemmas that they may come across in everyday life, helping them along the way to choose the right path. The downside of this theory is that it ignores the consequences or the outcomes of the actions taken. An example of this could be if you was attacked walking late at night and in self-defence killed your attacker, this would be wrong because the belief of killing somebody is immoral. Or a healthcare worker telling males and females that condoms and the contraceptive pill were 100% protective against pregnancy or disease. This would be a lie, as no one form of contraception is able to safeguard 100%. Utilitarianism. This is also known as consequentialism. It considers the greater good for the greatest number of people, therefore puts aside the rights and needs of the individual, as the majority is more important in this factor. Utilitarianists believe that decisions should be made by looking at all possible actions and consequences, and that the correct decision will be the one that has the highest benefits, but create the least harm. It is also a belief that we should reduce suffering and unhappiness and try to give as much pleasure and happiness as possible. This approach would be used if, for example, there had been a plane crash and there were many casualties. The decision would have to be made to treat those that were most likely to survive, therefore placing the needs of the majority first. Next, we're going to talk about the 4 main principles of ethics that are defined within healthcare. The 4 main principles outlined by Beauchamp and Childress are autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence and justice. These define the ethical duties that healthcare professionals should portray and follow towards patients. Autonomy. Beauchamp and Childress define personal autonomy as personal rules of the self that is free from both controlling interferences by others and from personal limitations that prevent meaningful choice, such as inadequate understanding. Autonomy is the right of the individual to be independent and make their own choices. When we put this to healthcare, it is allowing the patient the respect to be involved in the process of making their own decisions in reference to their healthcare. Once they have been empowered with this information and the benefits and risks of treatment available, it is important that they give consent or informed consent to go ahead with the treatment path. Patients should never be forced into treatment against their will, even if this doesn't agree with your own beliefs. This empowers the relationship between patient and practitioner as trust develops. Walker and Belchner, 1985, believed that every adult human being of sound mind has a right to determine what shall be done with his own body, and he or she has the right and responsibility to make their healthcare decisions. Autonomy also requires that protection is given to the vulnerable, such as elderly, mentally ill, disabled, and children, as they may not be able to understand information in reference to their treatment and care and could be incapable of giving consent. Mason, 1991, stated that, nevertheless, there are some occasions when the physician may determine that a patient's decision-making capacity is impaired. Then, a surrogate should be involved in decision-making who will follow the directions, values, and preferences of the patient in an effort to make a decision as the patient would have done. For an adult lacking this capacity to either consent or refuse treatment, an authorised surrogate must be relied upon by medical professionals. This could be someone that the patient has authorised, or it could be a court-appointed surrogate. In the case of a child, the parent has to give consent for treatment to happen, but this can be overridden by law if it shows that the child has suffered neglect or abuse. Beneficence. According to the NCBI, the United States National Medicine Library, beneficence is defined as an act of charity, mercy and kindness with a strong connotation of doing good to others, including moral obligation. It is the ethical principle that is the idea that when working in healthcare, the professional's actions should be for the best for the patient, such as providing inoculations for babies within a community or the flu jab to the frail and elderly in the winter. In some situations, there could be several choices for treatment for a patient that could all result in good being done. So considerations have to be taken as to which treatment would be best, not only for what would be medically advantageous, but what would be acceptable to the patient as a human being. Non-maleficence. Non-maleficence in theory runs alongside beneficence. Non-maleficence is the sister to beneficence and is considered as inseparable. It states that a medical practitioner has a duty to do no harm or allow harm to be caused to a patient through neglect. Any considerance of beneficence is likely therefore to involve an examination of non-maleficence. This is from the Medical Portal 2018. It is about ensuring that no harm is done unto others, such as depriving them of care, which could be prolonging life by artificial breathing and feeding. We are all aware that some medical treatments cause a degree of harm or harm, so the benefits of this treatment have to outweigh this. Euthanasia is shadowed by both beneficence and non-maleficence. On one hand, beneficence states that a doctor should act in a way that is best for the patients. On the other hand, maleficence is when non-maleficence is that no harm or risk should become the patient. In this day and age where medicines and systems have advanced so much, people can be kept on life support to prolong life. But this may not always be for the best for the patient. They could be kept in a vegetative state, but this may mean that they may never recover and lead a healthy, normal life, or that they will never resume consciousness, and eventually the treatment will take a toll on the body, thus causing the patient to suffer even more. You can also link this to justice, as it is illegal to assist someone with ending their life. Justice. Justice is about fairness and equality, and being impartial to the situation in order to make the correct decisions. Justice is broken into two subheadings: distributive justice and social justice. Burkhard and Nathani define justice as fair, equitable and appropriate treatment in light of what is due or owed to persons. Within healthcare, it is ensuring that all patients, no matter what their circumstances, are treated the same. Distributive justice is where everyone should have the right to anything that may improve their health within the society that they are living in. For example, if there's specialist treatment that's available in London, someone in Yorkshire should not be denied this because of the location they're living in. Social justice is where, regardless of gender, age, religious or sexual beliefs, all individuals have the right to be treated the same. Just because someone may be from another nationality in the country they're being treated in, or of a low income, they are all entitled to the same treatment from the healthcare system. All these four principles should run concurrently, as they are all important in their own way. Bioethics. Bioethics, according to Concordia St Paul, states that the term bioethics was first introduced in 1971 to reference the combination of biology and bioscience with humanistic knowledge. This is a study of ethics that relate to health and moral problems. It is an applied ethic as it requires many professionals to work together, sharing their expertise, including nursing, social science, law, medicine and philosophy. By working collaboratively, medical advances can be used to help treat illness and prolong life, covering issues that extend from beginning to end of life, such as intro-fertilisation to palliative care, and it directly affects caregivers and patients. It also has an impact on all areas of healthcare and society, from hospitals to care homes and out onto medical conferences. End-of-life care, medical resource allocation, euthanasia, organ donations are areas in healthcare where bioethics play a massive part, and many questions are asked when looking at these areas. Is it worthwhile? Is it the right thing to do? Who's responsible? And finally, is it moral? There was a case in America where doctors were forced with a bioethical dilemma. There was conjoined twins joined at the abdomen and pelvis with 3 legs and sharing a liver and bladder. Doctors had to consider the differing rights of the 2 unborn fetuses and the parents. It was concluded that if surgery went ahead, only 1 baby would survive, but without surgery, both would die. The challenge here was ensuring that everyone involved understood the implications, that the parents knew the risk of the surgery, and that the professionals involved were at ease with the ethics of this case. As for some, it may seem like they were taking life, but for others, the choice was for the great good. Conclusion. My conclusion is that ethics have been used within healthcare since Egyptian times and can be traced back to ancient Greeks over 2,500 years ago. Care professionals have a moral responsibility and obligations towards their patients. It is important that within these relationships, trust and respect are built and effective communication happens. Ethical values should be respected by all healthcare workers and always taken into consideration when interacting with either families, an individual or the community in which they work in. The word ethics should never be taken as a bad word, worrying that it is about making mistakes or an accusation of doing wrong. They are there to ensure parents, patients and their families are well informed and cared for within a structured set of values and morals. So just to summarise, today we've spoke about the definition of ethics, how the philosophical theories of ethics relate to healthcare, and the 4 core principles, which are autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence and justice. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed that talk.